Before we dive into today's Browns report, head on down there and hit that thumbs up icon and like today's video. We've got a bit of a challenge here at Chat Sports to see which channel can get the most likes in the month of June. And I want to win. So help me do that by just going down there. You don't have to smash the like button. Just tap it. It's very nice, very easy, and boom, you're ready to go. Today's Cleveland Browns report is presented to you by Aura, an all-in-one digital safety company that is keeping you protected online in a time and age where we do more online than ever. Aura has your back. Get a free trial today when you go to aura.com/chatsports. We'll tell you more about their awesome services later on in the video. But we've got the latest news and rumors coming at you on today's show. I know we're kind of in the dog days of the offseason, so honestly, shout out and pat yourself on the back to everyone watching, because real fans, they don't just clock out when Week 17 or Week 18 is over now. No, they stick with the team throughout the entire offseason. So we're going to hit up the latest Browns news and rumors, keeping you guys informed on what's going on in Berea and everything that it entails as OTAs is underway. We've got a lot of good stuff to go through. So let's get into it by using a friend, the Bernie Head meter here, where we like to rank them from 0 to 4 Bernie Heads. So Sports Illustrated put out some bold predictions, and they included the Browns. We'll look at them, but right off the cusp, I'm going to say 2 Bernie Heads, okay? There's some shreds of truth here, right? People are talking we're getting closer to some hot water compared to cold water. So let's analyze what Sports Illustrated has predicted for the Browns in 2022, as they handed out 100 bold predictions for the 2022 NFL season, and they included 3 predictions for the Browns. The first one was revolving around Deshaun Watson. I don't really think it was much of a prediction. But the other 2, one, the Browns win fewer than 10 games. The second one being a career year for David Njoku. Let's tackle these 2 predictions one by one. The first one being the Browns win fewer than 10 games. Here's what SI had to say about that. I think we're underestimating just how much of a meat grinder the AFC North is going to be. The Steelers will hover dangerously around 500. The Ravens will be vastly improved. The Bengals, like most Super Bowl teams, will deal with a hangover but still maintain relevance. My take on the Browns going less than 10 wins, if they've got Deshaun Watson starting 17 games, this is an 11 to 12 win team. Now, if Jacoby Brissett has to man the ship for 4 to 6 weeks, that changes things, right? I can very well see if Watson gets suspended 6 games, this Browns team going 500 with Jacoby Brissett. That's 3-3, and maybe they get to 9-8 because the AFC is loaded. And like SI pointed out, the AFC North is probably the second best division of football, only behind the AFC West, but you could argue either way, honestly. But let me throw it up to you guys, see what you have to say. Over or under 10 wins for the Browns in 2022. Join the Overs Club. Don't be a communist. Put over, or if you are a Ravens fan and you come over here because you're tired of hearing about Lamar Jackson not showing up to OTAs and you're just counting down the days until he goes to the Dolphins in free agency, you can put a U for under. All right, the other point that SI made was about David Njoku having a career year. Here's what they said. While we aren't exactly sure who will be throwing to the tight end or for how long, the Browns are scraping the barrel at wide receiver and seem incredibly high on the former first-round pick. So, are we going to see a career year for David Njoku, who in his career, 5 seasons thus far, I don't think if you brought an alien down and you just taught him about football today, they probably wouldn't look at Njoku and go, yeah, that's a guy worth that huge contract extension, which isn't as big, basically a 2-year, $25 million deal, but still. Let's not forget, Deshaun Watson made no name or tight ends with the Houston Texans look awesome, okay? This was a player who didn't have a Gronk, a Kelsey, any big targets to throw to, big names to throw to. But if you compare what he did with Darren Fells and Jordan Akins compared to and Austin Hooper and David Njoku, combine their stats, these two parties, from 2019 to 2020, and which side gets paid a lot more? Hooper and Njoku. What's the more notable side? Hooper and Njoku. And who has more touchdowns? Fells and Akins. Who had fewer targets and receptions? Fells and Akins. Who had more yards despite that? Fells and Akins. And only 3 more combined games. So what Deshaun Watson did with Darren Fells, who shot to him, caught Baker's first touchdown, and Jordan Akins, he's going to have a ton of fun with weapons like David Njoku and Harrison Bryant and whoever is coming down the line, the barrel, at the tight end position for the Browns. Before we get to more Browns news and rumors, I told you all at the top of the show about our friends at Aura. They have financial fraud protection, identity theft protection, online and device security, plus family plans that protect up to 5 people. Now, what does all this mean? Well, you do more online than ever before. So do not let the Russian hackers take all of your information and not just create a headache, but an absolute disaster of a week to month into years of figuring out this nonsense. Millions of dollars every year and millions of families, according to Dwight Schrute, which actually turned out to be true, suffer with this. So do not let yourself be a part of that category. If you've ever been hacked before and it was not a big deal, like just your Facebook got hacked, that's not the worst thing in the world, but don't let it be your credit card or your identity. Start today with a 14-day free trial thanks to aura.com/chatsports. I'm going to put that link in the comments and the description so you can't miss it. Get started today thanks to Aura. Next segment on the show. The Browns have the best pass rusher duo in the NFL. I'm going to be a big-time homer here, but I'll go 3 Bernie heads, all right? Not all the way at 4 Bernie heads. It's not Believeland just yet, but they definitely have something brewing between Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, okay? So here are 4 of the best pass rush duos, I would say, going into this season. You got Garrett and Clowney, and you have combined these two, the duo's stats in 2021, so you can kind of compare head-to-head a little bit here, who combined for 25 sacks last year, and Clowney didn't even play a full season. TJ Watt, yeah, it's hard to really beat him or him with anyone when he had 22.5 sacks last year, Defensive Player of the Year. Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd, and now the new duo out in L.A. as well. You've got Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Mack was hurt last year, so I don't think that 16.5 stats really represents the full capability. But you can definitely say Myles Garrett is excited to have Clowney back because he was pretty blunt about it. Here's what he said. I told him to get his ass here. That was about it. So Myles Garrett being pretty frank with the media after OTAs about what it's like to have Clowney back on the roster. Now, Myles Garrett was not the only one who was asked about this. Defensive coordinator Joe Woods said this. Nate Ulrich tweeting out, defensive coordinator Joe Woods said it means a lot to have Jadeveon Clowney back. On Clowney and Myles Garrett together at defensive end, I don't know if you call it Batman and Robin or Batman and Batman. Well, I'm happy that Ulrich, who's a phenomenal reporter at the Akron Beacon Journal, pointed out the Batman and Robin, and so did Joe Woods, because you haven't really had a Robin for Myles Garrett. Ignore his rookie season where he's kind of hurt. Ogunjobi was his partner in crime the first 2 seasons, 2018 and 2019, but just 5.5 sacks for Larry. 2020, Olivier Vernon was awesome, 9 sacks. I don't think anyone really saw that coming after being a part of the trade with the Giants, but then he ruptures his Achilles late in the season and hasn't played a snap since. And then you brought Clowney over, who had 3 sacks the prior 2 seasons combined. And he explodes for triple that in only 14 games for the Browns season, for the Browns last season. So I definitely do sense a Batman, Robin. I don't think it's Batman and Batman just yet. I think it's Batman and Robin, but you're definitely getting a nice 1-2 punch right there. And I'm happy to see them run it back and not have a revolving door for the sack attack by the Browns. Other news about Myles Garrett, by the way. Who remembers when Deshaun Watson took the offense to the Bahamas, and myself and many other people were like, all right, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, where are you taking the team? Well, he's taking the defense to Miami. They're going to South Beach. Don't have all the details yet, but sounds like a pretty fun trip right there. I don't know what's better, though, Bahamas or South Beach. I think I would go with Bahamas. It's a little more, I don't know, fun, right? A little different, a little more unique. But here's the question I really want to ask. Do you think Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney are the best pass rush duo in the NFL? Drop a Y for yes or an N for no down below in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you haven't subscribed, here's my little call to action to do so. If you want Myles Garrett to break the Browns sack record, hit that big red button. Don't leave it up to chance. He was very close to doing it last year. He's coming for Clay Matthews this year. So hit that big red button and subscribe if you want to see Garrett break that record in 2022. Speaking of Myles Garrett, is he recruiting Odell Beckham Jr. to come back to the Browns in 2022? I give this one 2 Bernie heads. There's some, people are talking. We've got some wheels in motion here because now that the elephant is out of the room with Baker Mayfield there, it appears that there is an avenue for Odell Beckham Jr. to return. Now, OBJ and Myles Garrett were going back and forth a little bit on Instagram just yesterday. And OBJ tweeting out, posting or commenting on Insta saying, "Who are you talking to, Slime?" at Flash Garrett with some emojis. And Myles Garrett responding with OBJ and then like a phone emoji. It's time, which I'm thinking means like FaceTime. Let's talk about this. I really don't know what it means when he says, "Who are you talking to, Slime?" But the takeaway is Myles Garrett trying to FaceTime OBJ and say, "Come back to the land. Let's, with the elephant's out of the room. Baker's gone, right? The Wicked Witch of the East is adios." So this locker room loves Odell Beckham Jr., okay? Let's not make any mistake. I think a lot of people, and myself included, were a little premature and wrong during the regular season last year to put all the blame on OBJ and go, this is not Baker's fault. This is OBJ being a diva. Is OBJ perfect? No, he's not. This is not to say OBJ is sinless and has no faults at all or doesn't, have beef with kicking nets and kicks them when he gets frustrated at MetLife. But my prediction is Odell Beckham Jr. is going to wait until mid-season to sign. Don't forget, when he tore his ACL 2 years ago, he didn't come back till about 11 months later. So if you apply that same math, when you tear your ACL in February, you're eyeing a January return. Now, maybe it's a little quicker this go-around, and he can come back in December, but I'm guessing he's going to do what he did last time when he was on the market, right? He sat around for just a little bit, weighed his options, and picked the best team. And he picked the right horse. He won a Super Bowl, after all. So I'm thinking when October rolls around, he's going to evaluate the landscape and pick whatever team he feels is closest to winning a Super Bowl. OBJ with the Browns last season versus with the Rams. We know it was a very different story once he went out to L.A. Was just never able to get going. Odell Beckham Sr. didn't do him a ton of favors. Odell Beckham Sr. didn't do Baker a ton of favors. He did OBJ a huge favor by posting that video of Baker missing Odell and getting OBJ eventually released. Now, there is more to this because Greg Newsome and JOK spoke about Odell Beckham Jr. and the Baker Mayfield feud when they joined the Varsity House podcast. And both former teammates have shown a lot of love for OBJ, okay? Players across the team have shown support for Odell Beckham Jr. This carried on from the moment he was released all the way through the Super Bowl. The Browns were rooting for their guy. And that's fine, right? He can still be a friend, and you might still be able to take Baker's side in what was that feud of the video being posted of Baker missing all the open throws to OBJ. But I think what Newsome and JOK said on the podcast was kind of damning. Here's a direct quote from it. "Odell has got to be one of the best teammates I've had," said Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And then Greg Newsome interrupts to say, "Nah, he's the best teammate I've had." The best teammate Greg Newsome has ever had after only 7 games together. They were both rookies last year. And he was the best teammate that they've ever had after playing in college at Northwestern and Notre Dame and all the bonds they made in high school. It took one guy 7 games to become the best teammate they've ever had. I think that speaks volumes to how much this locker room loved Odell Beckham Jr. You can follow it through the playoffs. Look where this tweet was. Look at the timestamp. I kept the receipts. Greg Newsome, January 17th, playoff game, OBJ. He wasn't the only one that showed his guy some love that day. All right? Guy who's not even on the team anymore, Javonte Moffitt, tweeting out OBJ time and time again. It wasn't just Juice, who was best friends with OBJ, who was very upset after the two sides parted ways, okay? This whole team clearly showed a lot of support for number 13. So do you want Odell Beckham Jr. back on the Browns? We're bringing back a classic here. Type OBJ for yes. or no BJ for no. Get your votes in down below.